This raised bed right here is all that we do for winter gardening. We decided long ago that winter for us is a time of rest, especially while we have little kids. That's our time to homeschool and just catch up from the busy season of like summer and spring. The beauty of this style of gardening is that it's so simple. It literally takes no effort for me during the winter time to maintain this. Here I've got a kale plant that literally made it through an entire Ohio winter under these windows. The reason there's only one is because I only had one kale plant. My lettuce and my cilantro did freeze. They succumbed to the freezing in like, I don't know, January or something. But kale is very hardy in this bed. The problem though with this raised bed is that here you can see it's rotting, like massively rotting, and it just needs to be rebuilt. So that's what we're gonna do today.
I want to show you how simple it is to build something like this, but this isn't the only thing that we need to get done in the next couple days. Our raspberries here need to get cut down. I've got something new in mind to try to make it easier to cut those down. I want to tell you why we do that and answer some questions that y'all have had about our raspberries, and Michelle's got some other stuff that she needs to get done too. This thing has lasted for about 8 years now, which is actually kind of crazy because this is just pine lumber. We were like dead broke when I built it, and this was all lumber that I already had. I didn't have to spend any money on this, but now I'm ready to put something here that will probably last a little longer. I got some cedar lumber there that we're going to be using, and I'll talk about all the different things we're going to do with this and why we're doing this stuff. This pile of wood was from another mess we cleaned up. Look like we'll have a good bonfire. The back part of this was resting on some bricks back here, but they seem to sink a lot easier than the blocks here in the front. So the whole thing was like tilted back. So I'm going to take these bricks out of here and put a few blocks in the back for the new one to sit on. So hopefully it stays a little flatter. Also going to take these bricks off the front, and we're going to line it with those 4-inch solid blocks on the front. We'll raise it up a little bit. It'll match the blocks underneath so we don't have 3 different looking things on the front of here. I'm going to need to dig some of this dirt out back here to put blocks in to set that on, but I'm not going to get this built tonight. I don't have all of the lumber and some of the stuff that I need. I also need to get some hay for my cow. Got my 1 mile run in before I left, and now it's getting dark. I have a lot of things left to do tonight yet. We got to get that hay back there. Got to go get some stuff in town. Also doing my dad's chores for him while he's on vacation. It's pretty much just giving his cows some water and feeding his dogs.
When we're putting a video together for you, I like to try to keep it nice and tidy. I like to just show the parts where we're on task and cut out all of the ums and in-betweens. But this is what life on the homestead is made of. It's not staying on task and getting everything accomplished in one fell swoop. We made a special trip to town a couple days ago to get the lumber I would need to build this. I realized though that I didn't figure enough lumber, plus there were a couple other things that I needed. Learning to embrace and enjoy the process has always been a struggle for me, but if you want a homestead, you might as well get used to it.
Little gap here, so I cut this block, see if it fits. I got out here early this morning and tried to get everything ready to build the top part of this raised bed here. So you can see I took all the bricks off. I put some blocks back there for the block to rest on. And I was gonna get this top part done, and now it's raining. I might take my saw on the porch and at least cut some of these boards for length and get them all ready. I don't know if it's gonna stop raining today. I'll be able to work on this. The other thing was Michelle was gonna do some stuff today. She was gonna help me with this. Now she's actually laying down inside. She's sick. Everything's just all kind of messed up. So I don't know what's gonna happen next. One of the things that Michelle was gonna do today was make some bread. And she's up in the bedroom just texted me and was like, hey, can you do a stretch and fold on my bread? If I was to be honest, I have never done this before. I actually went and watched one of our videos to see how she did it. I mean, I've seen her do it and stuff, but just to make sure I do it right. So she gets her hands wet so the bread doesn't stick to her, stretches it, folds it over. She said about 6 times. She's gonna laugh when she sees this. I don't think it looks as graceful as when she does it. I feel like a homemaker. I built an entire house, and all of the projects I've done around here, I've survived without having my own chop saw. But getting ready to build my office, I decided it's about time. I decided with as little as I will use it, I mean, there's a lot of projects I do and stuff that I will probably use it a decent amount, but it's not like I'm on a construction site using it every day. I'd get something like DeWalt or something like that, but for how much I'm gonna use it, I decided I can get a cheaper one. These short pieces here are for the ends and also for divider pieces throughout the frame. And the reason for that is it's just a long span, it's 20 feet long. So I want to have something in between so that the front and back don't bow in and out. For this frame, what I'm doing is one layer in the front and two of these on top of each other in the back to make it higher so that the windows slant down. So what I'm going to need on the ends is one piece plus another piece on top that is slanted. So what'll work perfect is just take one of these and cut it right in half, and each half can be used on an end. I just drilled holes in all the boards to get them ready to take out there, put screws in them, put it all together, and it started raining again. It's almost pouring now, and there's like 100% chance of rain for the rest of the evening. So I guess I'm done for now, and I'll have to get back to it tomorrow.
Things have been getting a little bit neglected around here because I was sick, but I'm feeling much better. It was a very short-lived flu, thankfully. So I am going to take care of my seedlings right now. First of all, I'm gonna water my seedlings, and then I'm gonna do some trimming and also some transplanting. My mic totally failed here in this next part, and we couldn't really refilm what I did. Something new that I'm implementing this year with my seedlings is bottom watering. I find it really annoying to water this many seedlings with a spray bottle. I never really felt like I was fully hydrating the soil with such a fine mist, and my hand always got so tired. But if I use the sprayer on my sink, I often knocked the more fragile seedlings over. So this year I'm just setting the seedling pots into a shallow tray of water and then leaving them there to soak up the water for about 15 to 30 minutes, just long enough for the soil to rehydrate. I'm also giving my onion seedlings a haircut today. I read somewhere that it's good to trim your onions once they have 2 leaves, which you can tell these do. They have 2 shoots coming up out of each onion. You want to just like cut off a few inches. You never want to go more than half. I'm not going to do half. I'm just going to cut off a few of the tops. But it says it keeps the onions from like falling over and crimping off, because often they get so tall and leggy that they're kind of top heavy, and so it's good to just trim them back so that they can stay stout. And it also helps to just make them more trimming them also just helps them to be more vigorous and like put off more leaves.
He was very vigorous, Father.
Vigorous.
I never thought about it that when you get your onion seedlings in the mail, most times they are trimmed. I just somehow never thought about that. I have some basil and oregano seedlings that are finally big enough to transplant. Always hydrate the soil first. I like to make holes with a pencil beforehand in the seed trays, and then I carefully, emphasis on carefully, dig out the seedlings. You want to leave all of the roots intact if possible. As little disturbance as possible is always the best. It's pretty obvious that I'm not getting greens out of my cold frame right now. Cody is redoing that, and plus a lot of them froze already back in January when we had like a really cold spell. I was talking with my naturopath a couple days ago, and she told me that one thing she thinks would be very beneficial for me and my certain kind of health issues is to be eating lots of broccoli sprouts. And I was like, oh, okay. That would be fun, an easy experiment to try to do. So I bought this bag of broccoli sprouting seeds just off of Amazon. I think it was $17 for this bag, which may sound like a lot, but 2 tablespoons of these seeds in the bottom of a jar will make a whole quart of broccoli sprouts. They're super easy, and my kids actually were raving over them. They really like them too. And I've read different places, I'm not a doctor, so don't take this as complete truth, but I've read that they have 50 times more nutrients in them than actual broccoli. I grabbed these sprouting lids to make it super easy. These, I think 2 of them was like $3 or $4, so it's not a big investment. I'm just going to put some water in here and let these soak overnight, and then in the morning I'll drain it off. And you just rinse them and drain them every single day, and in 5 days you will have broccoli sprouts. I had a quart of sprouts that was ready yesterday, and this is like literally all that's left of it. Our family just devoured these in one day, so I'm definitely gonna have to pump more of these out if we want to keep on top of things. My naturopath said that these are very anti-cancer, and they're also very anti-inflammation, and they really help to balance hormones. We're popping in here with a clip from the next day to show you what to do next for your broccoli sprouts. These were sitting overnight. They're nice and soaked, so I'm just gonna pour the water off. Then I'm just gonna rinse these again with nice cold water. And then I'm gonna drain them again. And then here's a really cool tip. You just twist the jar around and the seeds will kind of stick to the sides like that, which is really good because then they won't like sprout in one massive clump, like the roots clump together if you don't do that. And then I just set these in a bowl so that they can continue draining. And you set them somewhere on your counter where they're not in direct sunlight. On day 4, I set these up on my windowsill in direct sunlight. That just helps them grow faster.
Finally done raining, so I can start working on this thing again. And I'm ready to build the frame for this, but I was thinking I wanted to add more compost in here. I want to raise this dirt level a little bit, and plus I just want some nicer dirt in here. I want to do that before I've got the frame on here because it'll just be a whole lot easier. So I'm gonna get compost first. Yeah, this doesn't look very nice down here. This is a nasty mess. And these pipes, the idea was that they've got holes in them, that they would like aerate the compost without me actually needing to turn the compost. And I think, you know, it could do that, but then coming down here to get the compost with the tractor, they just got all messed up. They're in the way. I'm not doing that again. The way we do our compost is just really simple. We put things on a pile, manure and hay and straw and scraps and stuff like that, and we let it rot. And we pretty much just let it sit for a couple years and it'll turn into compost. You could do it a lot faster if you turned it, but who wants to turn this much compost? I ain't doing it by hand for sure, and it could be done with a tractor. There's still a lot of work. It's not worth it to me. I'll just be a year or two behind with my compost as long as I keep a couple piles going. I've got enough compost to go around. Now we did just get a bunch of rain, so this is really wet. It's not ideal for filling in that cold frame up there, but it'll still definitely work. That's just crumbly even after being rained on for a couple days. This wheelbarrow is a double-edged sword. It's nice because it holds a lot, but it gets heavy, especially wet. Michelle posted the original raised bed here on her Instagram. She got a lot of comments, a lot of questions, and one of the big ones was like, isn't it bad to put that up against your house? Aren't you worried about rot and like water leaking in the basement and things like that? And I want to answer a couple of those. So first of all, just notice that there is no dirt or anything up against the siding. It only is on the concrete. And if you think about it, I mean, that's what the rest of the foundation is. The rest of the foundation is down in the dirt. So that's not an issue. Now, using untreated wood like we did, that maybe wasn't the best idea because as it starts rotting, it could start attracting bugs and stuff like that, and you don't necessarily want that. But having something like cedar, or if you used composite or something like that, that's not gonna rot, I don't see that as a problem either. And when we put this frame on here, it's gonna be away from the side of the house. It's not gonna be shoved up right against the house. When Michelle waters this also, it's not going to be anything more than like a rain. Michelle isn't watering this thing year round. It's only in the spring and then like some in the fall. All summer long, it's empty and it doesn't get watered in the winter. To us, it's not any different than having like a flower bed up against the side of your house. We haven't had a problem with water getting into our basement from her watering this. So from my perspective, it's not a problem, not something to worry about. If it does bother you, don't do it. And if you were really worried about it, one thing that you could do is before you go and put everything in, put a layer of plastic that goes on the back and underneath the bottom so that when you do water, it drains out towards the front.
So on top of Michelle's mic messing up earlier, I didn't notice that my mic died pretty much at the beginning of putting this frame together. We just really weren't on top of our game here. Michelle had to go to town for a few things, and I decided that I wanted to try to get this thing done and cut down the raspberry plants before she got back. I drilled pilot holes in the ends of all the boards so they wouldn't split when I put the screws in. I also decided to use liquid nails on all the joints since this is going to be out in the weather. This build is really very simple. I put each half of the rectangle box together, put in the divider boards, then scabbed some boards over the splices to connect the two halves. Then I added boards in the back to connect the top half. I don't have specific plans for this build because every situation is going to be different. The size will depend a lot on the size of window sash you can find. What I want to show you here is just that it's a very simple concept that can be adapted to whatever situation you're in. Once the top half was put together and connected to the bottom, it was almost ready to go.
These boards right here are going to go along the front just to hold the window sash from sliding off. It is almost ready. There's one more thing that I want to do before we set the windows on top and see how it looks. The one that was on here before was made out of 2-inch thick lumber, and so it was a lot heavier, so it was sitting on here really nice. This is fairly heavy and it ain't really going to go anywhere, but I'm going to put just a few brackets screwed down into the block just to hold it into place because this kind of does move around a little bit. Now obviously these blocks can move around a little bit or whatever, but they're going to be heavy enough to hold it down. Just kind of hold everything in place. The thing about this cold frame right here is that I just wanted to make it simple, easy, and just, it doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to grow some greens up here. Let's put some windows on top, see how it looks. These are insulated windows, so it's like a double pane. So that really helps to hold the warmth in there.
Speaking of warmth, we get asked a lot which side of the house this is on. Ideally, a cold frame would be on the south side to get the most use of the sun. Well, there are trees by the south side of our house. Plus, we had ideas of building an addition on that side someday. So we put this on the east side of our house, and it works just fine.
I want to get these raspberries cut down real quick before Michelle gets back. She wants to talk a little bit about the raised bed yet. I got this brush cutting blade. It was suggested by some of you who watch our videos to cut these down, and for the asparagus. I had never used one before. I don't even really know exactly how it goes on the weed eater, but I guess I will figure it out. How to remove head from Husqvarna weed eater. How the heck is that supposed to work? This doesn't have a nut or anything with it. It's gonna need an adapter kit. I guess I won't be getting this done before she gets back. I need to order a blade with an adapter kit or a separate adapter kit, whatever, so I can put that on there and cut these raspberry plants down. The reason that we do that is because it helps them be more disease and bug free, and it also makes so that, how do I explain this? You cut them down and then everything grows back, and then you get more of like a concentrated raspberry harvest more in like the late summer and fall, rather than berries kind of trickling in all year long. Michelle likes that a lot better because it more just puts like her jam making and stuff all at one time rather than just kind of all spread out throughout the spring and summer. This variety here is Heritage, and from what I've heard, not all varieties are the same with cutting them down every spring. So depending on what variety you grow is going to depend whether or not you're going to want to cut them down or not. And we want to cut them down before like the spring growth starts, because you don't want the roots putting energy into growing plants that you're gonna cut down anyways. I'm gonna cut them down like pretty close to the ground. And then once it dries up a little bit, I'm gonna take the tiller along each side and till so that we're just left with a row about 18 to 24 inches wide. You don't want it really wide like that, because then the ones in the middle are all shaded out and they don't get enough airflow, and then you get more like disease and bugs and stuff. Our patch is about 40 feet long, and we get so many raspberries from this patch. So many, in fact, that we're planning to take out probably the last section down there. It's just so many raspberries to deal with. Michelle spends hours and hours and hours picking raspberries, and it's really more than we can use for our family. We've gotten tons of flack for this because we mentioned it before. Everybody thinks we just need to keep them if we got them, but the thing is yes, we do give them to friends and family and stuff, but we want to grow some more variety, and you can only do so much on a homestead. You got to deal with the space you have. You also got to deal with the time you have, and if Michelle's spending all that time on raspberries, she's not going to have time to deal with, say, blackberries or elderberries or something like that. It just keeps getting colder out here and it's getting dark, but Michelle just got home, so I'm going to have her come out here and let's see what she thinks about her new cold frame.
Wow.
You like?
I do. It's very streamlined. The other one was a little bit janky. Now all that I need is like hinges with like sticks to make some of the windows.
We might do that. So what do you think? Are we gonna stain the front too, right?
Yeah, I think the front should be stained just so that it like lasts a little bit longer, looks a little bit nicer. And then now that this looks nice, we have to paint this part of the house. It looks terrible, honestly.
Right.
Before I actually plant in this, I do want the soil to warm up a little bit. Like the windows on top should help it warm up. So if we have like a few days in a row that are in the 60s or 70s where the soil can really heat up down there, and then I'll go ahead and plant. But like especially things like lettuce, they're not going to germinate well if the soil isn't warm enough. Now, if I had seedlings like kale and lettuce seedlings, you could plant those and they might not grow a ton if it's pretty cold outside, but they wouldn't die down there. But like seeds sometimes will rot. Some people do say you can plant them when it's cold, and then when it gets warm, they'll germinate. But I haven't had the greatest success with doing that, so I'm just gonna wait.
Here's another video you could watch.
Go ahead, click on it.